FromSoftware has long been hailed as a titan in the gaming world, crafting some of the greatest, most challenging and the most rewarding experiences that you can think of. Games like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and of course Elden Ring, which took the open world RPG genre to new heights in 2022 with over 25 million copies sold. These titles have earned them a near legendary status among fans and critics alike, often setting the gold standard for difficulty, world design and storytelling in gaming. But even a studio with such a fantastic track record isn't immune to criticism. We often give companies like Bethesda and Ubisoft a hard time for their mistakes. Things like Starfield, Fallout 76, or Assassin's Creed Shadows for instance. So it is only fair that we hold FromSoftware to the same standard, no matter how much we can admire their past work. So that brings us to their latest release, Elden Ring Nightreign, a standalone roguelite spin-off that launched on the 30th of May, promising a fresh co-op adventure in the Elden Ring universe. However, just days after its release, it is clear that Nightreign has let many fans down in numerous ways. Today, I'm going to dive into why Elden Ring Nightreign feels like a disappointing misstep for FromSoftware, from its mixed reception to its glaring design flaws and missed opportunities. Now, if you are an Elden Ring fan wondering whether Nightreign lives up to the hype, stick around and hit that like and subscribe and I'll break all of it down for you. Let me kick things off by examining the reception for Elden Ring Nightreign, which has been a divisive release for FromSoftware to say the least, and it does set the stage for its biggest shortcomings. I don't think you guys actually understand how hard it is to say for FromSoftware over and over again. Try it yourself, it is a bit of a tongue twister. Nightreign aimed to bring a fresh co-op spin to the Elden Ring universe, but just 2 days after release, the cracks are already showing. The game has a meta-core of 77, a respectable score on paper but a far cry from Elden Ring's stellar 96 on Metacritic. Now on Steam, Nightreign is sitting at a mixed rating with only 66 positive reviews, a sharp decline from Elden Ring's very positive 94%. Players aren't holding back. Steam reviews highlight a laundry list of grievances, with users writing the game feels unfinished, a co-op mess without voice chat, forced free-player co-op with no duo option. This sentiment is echoed across platforms as well, not just Steam. The mixed reception isn't just fan griping, IGN's review gave it a 7 out of 10 as well, praising its tight combat but criticising its lack of polish in the co-op mechanics. But then again, who really cares about IGN? One of the most glaring issues fueling this mixed reception is the absence of a duo mode as well, a feature that feels like a no-brainer for a co-op game in 2025. Nightreign locks you into a free-player co-op. You can't play with just one friend without a random third being match-made into your squad, a design choice from FromSoftware later called an oversight in production. They have promised to add a duo mode in a future update, potentially by late 2025 or sooner, based on their typical patch timelines, but for now it is a frustrating limitation that alienates players who want a more intimate co-op experience. Why did I just say that? Imagine you and your best friend gearing up to take on a Night Lord, meticulously planning your builds, only to be paired with a random player who just doesn't share your strategy or playstyle, or your passion. I've had sessions where the third player was underleveled, dying repeatedly to basic enemies, dragging both of us down, or worse, they would just rush the boss while we are still exploring, but at least they wouldn't lose any levels because they didn't bother to level up either. This forced free-player setup breaks that rhythm of co-op, especially for players who prefer a tight-knit teamwork duo. Compounding this issue, the complete absence of in-game voice chat as well, a feature that should be standard really for any co-op focused title, especially one as demanding as this game. It is a baffling decision that Nightreign offers no voice chat, no text chat, only a basic ping system to communicate with your teammates. This can sometimes make progression feel nearly impossible at times, particularly when you're stuck with random teammates who just don't coordinate. There's no way to say, hey, let's group up or focus the boss. We were basically left to guess each other's intentions half the time. And in a game as punishing as Elden Ring, it is a recipe for disaster. In all honesty, I'm not quite sure how a 2025 game doesn't even have co-op voice chat, or even crossplay. How can I basically not tell my teammate to stop running off? Now that I've covered the Nightreign mixed receptions and missing features, I want to dive into something I see as one of its biggest flaws, the repetitive gameplay that sets far too quickly. And this is draining the excitement for me of what should be a thrilling experience. Just to make you aware, there will be spoilers ahead when I discuss this point. Nightreign introduces 8 new Night Lords as a centerpiece. These are unique climactic bosses you face after surviving 3 in-game days. The first Night Lord I encountered was genuinely impressive. It had a dynamic arena that shifted mid-fight, forcing me to adapt my positioning and multi-phase attacks. As well as that, the second Night Lord was great, but I've already kind of seen this. I've been to this arena, I fought this sort of same situation. I've had the same cutscene when I went into the second Night Lord to the first. Things like that frustrate me. Now, after killing those first two Night Lords, the game's repetition just became a slog, and for me it kind of never really recovered, leaving me questioning whether FromSoftware truly understood what it makes to make this game replayable. Now, this lack of variety isn't just limited to the Night Lords. It's sort of for the entire gameplay loop, from exploration to combat encounters. You're tasked with surviving in 3 in-game days, facing minor bosses during the day and a major Night Lord on the third night. I've lost count now of how many times I stumbled across the same bandit outpost layout. Always 3 enemies, a chest in the corner, and a predictable patrol pattern. Even a loop which should encourage exploration feels static to me. I keep thinking I find the same old stuff with no variation in stats or effects. Unlike in Elden Ring's base game, where every region offered a unique weapons like the Moonveil Katana or Rivers of Blood, I feel like Elden Ring Nightreign is made up of existing Elden Ring parts, with only the Night Lords truly being new. But even after the initial novelty wears off, I feel like it isn't fresh. Just to understand how much Nightreign misses the mark, I'll compare it to some other successful roguelites that nail this aspect. Games like Hades and Dead Cells excel because they constantly remix their elements. Hades offers different boons from gods, and they drastically change your build each run, while Dead Cells shuffles enemy patterns, room layouts, and weapon drops to keep every attempt feeling fresh. Now, I can appreciate the different maps in Elden Ring Nightreign, but for me it's the enemy variation that is where they fall short. It just feels like I'm doing the same thing over and over. They've obviously gone for this Fortnite Battle Royale-esque layout, which is the Battle Royale genre, the most popular genre in the world it feels like, and the genre that we can't seem to get away from. I'm sick of it. Now, how does Fortnite get you to be able to play it so much and so often? Back in the day, we could play hundreds and hundreds of games in a row and not even blink an eye. And the only reason because of that was because of that multiplayer aspect, the fact that we're against each other and we didn't know what we were going to do. In Elden Ring, when I memorized every single enemy's attack patterns, why should I replay this game? What is the replayability value for it? Now, the impact of this repetition on Nightreign's replayability just cannot be overstated. It is fundamentally undermining the game's longevity and leaves players with little to no reason to come back. Roguelites are built on the promise of just one more run, where each attempt feels distinct enough to warrant another go, even after failure. But now in Nightreign, the lack of variety makes every run feel like a chore after the initial excitement fades. The bigger issue is that these encounters stop becoming confusing or evil or difficult, but they become boring, and sometimes I find myself losing motivation to continue on. But I want to step back and assess where Elden Ring Nightreign stands overall from a FromSoftware release, and why it does feel like a missed opportunity. Now, in my opinion, Nightreign is the perfect 7 out of 10 game. It does have its moments of brilliance, like the satisfying combat mechanics we've come to expect from FromSoftware. Oh, I've done it again. With tight-knit dodging and parrying that feels rewarding as ever, especially when you hit that perfectly timed counter, to the incredible looking world and amazing boss design. When you are in a well-coordinated squad of 3, communicating on Discord to strategize, the game can be a blast, so fun, showcasing the potential of its co-op design. It is one of the finest examples of a 3-player co-op game when played as intended, but these highs are overshadowed by its glaring flaws: the lack of variety in its gameplay loop, the repetitive encounters, and the absence of essential features like duo mode and in-game voice chat. These issues make Nightreign feel unpolished and incomplete, a far cry from the meticulously crafted games that we've seen in the past. FromSoftware usually delivers 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 experiences. This feels like, in a way, they've rushed it. It should have been a DLC for the base game of Elden Ring, not an entirely separate project. I think the general consensus among fans and critics reinforces this sentiment as well. I actually think this game would have been better received as a $20 DLC for the base game of Elden Ring, rather than this standalone title. Its reliance on the recycled assets, which are stitched together from Elden Ring's existing parts, makes it feel more like an extension rather than a new game. If FromSoftware had released Nightreign as a co-op focused DLC, adding its roguelite mode to the base game, it could have been a fun side experience for Elden Ring fans, similar to how Bloodborne's Chalice Dungeons offered a roguelite challenge in 2015. Looking to the future, I am deeply skeptical about Nightreign's longevity, and I do worry that it will be forgotten about sooner rather than later. FromSoftware has a history of moving on to new projects after initial support. Sekiro received a few patches, but no major content updates, and even Elden Ring's post-launch support has been limited to balance patches outside of Shadow of the Erdtree, Nightreign's mixed reception doesn't bode well for sustained updates. While FromSoftware has promised a duo mode, there's been no word about voice chats. Nightreign stands as a disappointing chapter in FromSoftware's otherwise stellar legacy, a game that promised a fresh co-op roguelike experience but fell short in execution. It feels overpriced for what it offers, more like a $20 DLC experiment rather than this standalone title, especially when compared to the content-rich Shadow of the Erdtree expansion. I can't quite shake the feeling that FromSoftware would have been better off crafting another Elden Ring DLC, giving us more of the lands between to explore, rather than this sort of experimental detour that feels half-baked and risks being forgotten. I'm going to keep playing it for as long as I physically can, and I'm going to try and enjoy it to the best of my ability. I think there's a lot of good qualities of this game, but it just feels like unfortunately FromSoftware has missed the mark with this title.